This is the Moonlight Graham Show, a freewheeling conversation with the role players, the underdogs, and guys with flat-out great stories in sports.
Hello and welcome back to the Moonlight Graham Show, and our Moonlighter for today was a fifth-round draft pick in the 2020 Major League Baseball draft from West Des Moines, Iowa, Dowling Catholic High School. His name is Carter Baumler. 2 years ago, Carter Baumler was one of the hottest names in prep high school baseball. And at that time, he had signed with TCU to go play college baseball, one of the best college baseball programs in the entire country. But there was this talk that he was potentially going to be a first, second-round draft pick in the Major League Baseball draft. He ended up getting drafted in the fifth round by the Baltimore Orioles, but they thought so highly of him that they actually ended up giving him like first, second-round money to sign with the club. So even though his draft stock fell a little bit, he was still able to get a huge signing bonus by the Baltimore Orioles to forego playing college baseball at TCU. And unfortunately, shortly after Carter was drafted, he ended up having to have Tommy John surgery. So even though he is now 2 years essentially into his professional baseball career, he has not appeared in a professional baseball game yet. And he is right now coming back from that Tommy John surgery to the point where he's healthy. He's back throwing in the mid-90s again. He is crow hopping and pulling down in the high 90s. And it's going to be really fun to watch his career progress for the Baltimore Orioles, one of the most storied franchises in professional baseball. So it was fun to get Carter on the podcast at this time in his career where he has been grinding it out, that rehab, getting his body healthy, getting adjusted to professional baseball over the last couple of years. And now he's going to be making his professional debut coming up this spring and this summer for the minor league Baltimore Orioles, and they think very highly of him. He is one of the top prospects in that system, and I think he's a guy that's going to go up the ladder within the minor leagues in a pretty quick fashion. So it's fun to get him on the podcast. He's a young kid. You know, this guy's 19, 20 years old. It's always fun to talk to somebody where their career is all in front of him right now, and you can hear the excitement, the confidence in his voice like you have when you talk to any confident 20-year-old. So this was a really fun interview to do, and I think you guys are really going to enjoy this episode. Of course, special shout out to our sponsor, The People's Company. If you're looking for any answers in farmland, farming, call The People's Company. Matt Adams, Andrew Zelmer over there. But enjoy today's episode with Moonlighter Carter Baumler. But before we get to our interview, Moonlighters, are you or someone you know moving down to Kansas City? Well, if you are, the one realtor that we trust and yet you need to be calling is the great Brian Samvig. As you well know, Brian Samvig is our producer here on the podcast, and there is not a better residential real estate advisor down in the Kansas City marketplace than Brian Samvig. Call Brian Samvig, shoot him a text. Hey, DM us on social media. We'll get you connected with Brian if you can't find him on all the socials, but he is there and he is active, and he is your Kansas City realtor, so give him a call. Carter Baumler, welcome to the Moonlight Graham Show.
Thank you for having us, or having me.
I started, well, it's us, because your roommate's laying in the background. I started following you on Instagram a couple months ago, and it's mostly hunting pics. So when's the last time that you killed something?
Oh, man. Last time I went on was about a week before I left for Florida. So just over 2 weeks ago, right before hunting season ended.
Are you a good hunter?
You know, I didn't get it done this year with my target buck, but I got it done on the waterfowl side of things. So I'd say I'd had a little bit of success. It was kind of a roller coaster of a season, but I just love doing it. That's my thing.
With the deer, are you a bow guy? Are you a shotgun guy? How do you hunt them?
I'm a bow guy now. So last year I planned on getting out there with a bow, but with having TJ, you can't really pull back a bow the first couple months. So this was the first year doing it, and I didn't put the best shot on one of my target bucks this year, and I killed him, but I walked over 24 miles trying to find him up and down, our whole farm. But I didn't find him during the season. Hopefully we can find him during shed hunting season. But yeah, I'm a bow hunter now.
How do you know somebody else didn't kill that buck?
We know that the buck died within a week of me shooting him, because we had two other 155 plus bucks move in. And when that happens, move into his territory, that means that the buck has either left the territory or he's dead. And we haven't seen him show up on any of our other trail cameras. So we know he's probably dead.
So the goal is to then go out, find him, find his rack, and then you're going to take credit for killing that buck.
Yeah. That's what would normally happen, but it hasn't happened yet.
So take me back to draft night when the Orioles pick you round 5 a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so pretty crazy night. Actually, I didn't know if the whole thing was gonna play out, but talking to my agent, we knew that the Orioles might have a 5th round pick, and they might be saving some money earlier in the rounds to push down further in the draft, and it ended up working out. Thank God. Pretty crazy night. Couple tears fell. Me and my dad, my older brother, my family. It was a great night for us. One I'll never forget.
How late does that night go?
Oh,
because as soon as you get drafted, I mean, all of the talk was, is Baumler going to go to college? You had signed with TCU. It sounded like you were pretty well committed to that program. Great program, a lot of great guys down there. And then, the 5th round, you probably slide to the 5th round because you're so committed to TCU. So even after you get drafted, did you already know, like, I'm going to sign, or was there negotiations that have to take place?
I knew after getting picked by the Orioles. I mean, we were in communication with them before they picked me, obviously. So I knew that there was a very, very solid chance of me signing with them after. But like you said, I was very committed to TCU. I mean, I didn't know if the whole draft thing was going to work out or not. And thank God it did, because I love where I'm at.
Was it tough turning away from the college route?
Yeah, it definitely was. I think the toughest part was actually 6 months after the draft, or probably more like 8 months after the draft, when the college season started. And I'm watching, all the kids I was going to be going to college with, I'm watching them play while I'm actually currently going through TJ. But like I said, I like where I'm at. I like being with the Orioles. It's an awesome organization. It's a pretty fun experience too.
Have you reached out to Mike Boddicker, or has he reached out to you as of yet?
I don't think so. No.
No, Mike Boddicker, right? Oh, geez, Carter. Okay, well, let me fill you in. Mike Boddicker, I think he was the ALCS MVP in 84, maybe 1984. He's in the Orioles Hall of Fame. He's from Norway, Iowa, played at the University of Iowa. He's probably 62 years old or so, but legendary Iowan. Might be one of the best baseball players, top 5 baseball players ever to come out of the state. Lives in the Kansas City area, big hunter. You'd get along with him, right?
Holy crap. Yeah. How do I not know this guy? Golly.
Yeah.
Mike Boddicker? You know Mike Boddicker?
Boddicker.
Mike Boddicker. Wow, that's crazy. That'd be a guy I'd love to go connect with him, go hunt with him sometime. That'd be awesome.
So it's been weird, your run so far. Like, this is kind of going to be your first full spring training that you're healthy, right?
Yeah.
And the Orioles are a really proud franchise, tons of great history.
Absolutely.
At spring training, are a lot of those old Orioles legends, like the Cal Ripken Jr.'s, Brady Anderson, maybe, Mike Boddicker, you might meet him. Are those guys at spring training, or what's that kind of previous generation of Orioles alumni like?
So the only interaction I've had, they'll interact with us on like Twitter and stuff like that. Like Cal Ripken, he tweeted at us, Cal Ripken Jr., the night I got drafted. But that's really the only interaction I've had. Other than that, I really haven't experienced the whole spring training thing. I mean, I was there last year, but I was kind of in and out of there, doing my rehab for TJ. So I didn't really get to experience the whole thing. And plus, being in the minor leagues, I'm not with the big league level. So I'm sure there's some different stuff that goes on there, but yeah, I mean, I'm sure there is, but I haven't talked to any of them yet.
A lot of scouts before the draft back in 2020 liked you as a hitter. Yeah. Right. And so Was there ever talk of you potentially doing the Shohei Ohtani thing and maybe trying to do both for a while, or was it just always going to be the pitching route for you?
I'd say, I mean, it was primarily just pitching. I think it just kind of like the hitting thing kind of happened when I was hitting for the Red Scout team in the sticks a little bit, and they saw me and saw some of the power I had. Wasn't the most consistent hitter, I'd say, but I did have a little bit of pop in the bat. But I'd say for the most part, I was pretty much just going as a pitcher. The Giants and a couple other teams, they noticed it too, and they were like, "Wow, you can hit. I mean, we might give you a shot as a hitter too." But I love pitching, and if I'm going to do it, I'm probably just going to go all in on throwing the baseball.
It's so hard to be a good pitcher, and it's probably even harder to be a good hitter, at least at the major league level, with all of the things that go through your head in the box when you're facing like major league caliber pitchers that I just can't even believe what Ohtani's doing. Like, I don't get it.
All of us players think the same thing. I mean, it's like we don't get how a guy can do the crazy things that he's doing, hitting balls 500 feet and then throwing the ball 102. Like, that's just unreal. You don't ever see that.
Are there any guys in the Orioles system right now that are trying to do both?
Other than like messing around? I don't think so.
Since you've been in pro ball or maybe even high school, there's a lot of good baseball that's come out of Central Iowa where you're from. Who's the biggest like athletic freak that you've seen on a baseball diamond?
Athletic freak. I mean, there's a couple guys in our org that are just athletic freaks, man. I mean, some of these Latin people that come over here, you see some of these 16-year-olds, it's pretty ridiculous. From Central Iowa, oh man. I probably couldn't put a name.
You might be the guy, right? Like, you might be the guy. It might be Carter Baumler. And if you're Carter Baumler, 5th round pick, maybe everybody else seems a little bit lame.
I mean, if you want, you can say that if you want, but I'm not gonna say that myself. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of other really good athletes out there.
For sure. So obviously you sign with the Orioles, and then shortly after that, you're throwing in instructs. You're feeling some discomfort in the elbow. They shut you down. It turns out that you need Tommy John surgery. You mentioned it earlier, but that time when you have surgery in the fall, and then all of a sudden college season, spring training's happening, all of this stuff's happening, and you're on the sidelines probably for the first time in your life. What was that period of time like for you? Because you're probably still just 18, 19 years old at that time.
Yeah. I was 18 right when I had TJ, turned 19 in January last year, and going through that, yeah, it was a really tough deal, especially coming off of COVID. Not playing at all in the 2020 season. With getting drafted, you're not allowed to really play in the high school season. Would be a little bit different now with the draft in July, but yeah, I mean, I didn't really get to play any baseball in 2020, and then 2021, the season got scratched. It's been a long time since I've thrown in a game. It's been September 2019. Somebody asked me that the other day, and I was like, yeah, it's going to be about 2.5 years from game to game, true game to game. So it's been a while, but I'm ready for it. I can't wait.
I've seen a bunch of guys go through Tommy John and the rehab process, and a lot of them come out, as good or better on the other end. But that rehab process is no joke. Like, it's painful, it's slow, it's tough on the mind. And you're kind of away from the team, you're away from the guys. Like, that's really hard on a lot of guys that really thrive around the team environment. Reading a lot of your interviews, it seems like you've had a really good attitude about this whole thing. But what has that process been like, this rehab for you, where now you're kind of just getting on the other side of it now and getting back ready to go?
Yeah, you definitely got to surround yourself with positive people in the whole situation. And I think that's the best part about the Orioles is everybody's a real positive person. And there's a really good atmosphere. But yeah, I mean, Tommy John, you have to be real patient, and that if you don't know that, it'll teach you, throughout that full year of rehab. It's a grind for sure, but I'm finally getting on the other side of it, and I'm really starting to see that all that hard work is starting to pay off.
What's the toughest part of it?
Definitely not playing, and seeing everybody else play. Like, for me, it's been a long time since I've played. I really want to get out there, and I'm a real competitive person. So not being on the bump, facing people, it's just that's the hardest part. Like you really got to tune it out when you see somebody else throwing or when you're watching a baseball game. And I just want to get out there and just work on stuff. You know what I mean? It's like, just take a step back and we'll get there eventually. Just do the things you can do today and we'll get there.
How's the arm feel? Like, does it feel different now than when it did before surgery?
Yeah, it's kind of like what they say about COVID. It's the new normal. It's feeling good though. I'd say, obviously the first year when you start throwing again, it feels a little weird, and I'm definitely getting that feel back for it. You feel back for your pitches, and getting through that soreness early on. Granted, my elbow will still get a little sore here and there, but I mean, it's nothing. It feels better than before. If I got to be honest, with all the rehab that you do, and how regimented things are nowadays, it's 96% of people are coming back and things are going to work out well.
Did you have to make any adjustments to your delivery, your mechanics, any pitches that you're throwing coming out on the other end? Because it is a time where you can look back and reevaluate everything and say, hey, now that I have this time to really tinker with all my delivery, my pitches, my repertoire, did you take some of the time to make some tweaks?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, we've made a couple tweaks, couple arm path tweaks, lower half, getting my timing synced up a little bit better, working on, the hip shoulder separation, that kind of thing, throwing plyo balls, stuff like that. That's all stuff that has cleaned a few things up, lower half, lead leg block, that kind of thing. Yeah, there's definitely been a couple adjustments, and it all helps with, getting more consistent and feeling better.
What's one thing that when you look back at yourself as a high school pitcher 3 years ago and you think, man, I was an idiot. I didn't know what I was doing on the mound. And now that because this is your job now, this is your career.
High school is high school. You're just going to go out there and you're going to try and do everything you can. But yeah, looking back on it, you're just like, what the hell was I doing there? Like, why would I do that? Whatever. But, I'm definitely going to learn a lot more here too. I'll be saying the same thing about myself right now here in 3 years after throwing a few innings in minor league baseball. So you live and you learn. That's all I got to say about that.
Yeah. What type of pitcher are you? I know in high school, I came out and I saw you a couple of times for Dowling. Low to mid 90s is what I saw. I had a pretty good breaking ball, but high school is high school. A lot of the guys that you were facing didn't stand much of a chance, and you could have kind of did whatever you want with a lot of those lineups. So how do you expect yourself to project out moving forward here as a pro?
Yeah. Working with the Orioles and working on some, working on my heater, get my spin efficiency a little bit better. Naturally I have a pretty high spin rate for a pitcher. So that's kind of what we're taking advantage of there on the fastball side of things. I've developed a change up in the past couple of years that I did not have at all in high school. I had no feel for a changeup at all in high school, which I've really started to gain a feel for these past couple of years. My curveball has always kind of been my go-to off speed, and that's kind of stayed the same way. It's tightened up. It's got a little bit harder over the past couple of years, ever since I've been in pro ball. But that's kind of the pitcher I am right now. I'm a 3-pitch mix, 4-pitch mix. If I start throwing another pitch here soon, which I plan on it, I plan on starting to throw like a slider cutter kind of deal here soon. But I'm just going to get back to where I was before TJ. Yeah, I'd say fastball, curveball, changeup. That's me.
I saw your dad posted a video on Twitter maybe last week of you crow hopping and touching 97 on the gun. What's that feel like to just be like, oh, I'm back to where I need to be?
That felt pretty good. I haven't done that in a while, but yeah, that was just that was my second time getting into some baseballs or starting to actually like get ripping on a baseball, in the past year and a half. So there's definitely still a lot more in the tank from that perspective. And I think I can definitely get over into the hundreds crow hop here fairly soon. But it feels good. I mean, letting a ball eat, like I've been looking forward to a moment like that in a long time.
Have you seen triple digits on a crow hop before?
I mean, I was pulling down 98 when I was in high school, but I granted, I pull down all the time to my catch partner, to whoever it is, and I'm sure I'll probably thrown, well over 98, but I've never actually gotten on a radar again, just because honestly, in the past, never have really had access to it most of the time.
So your little brother just signed with TCU.
Yeah.
Is he going to be better than you?
He's got a real high potential. I'd say he was a little bit later of a bloomer in high school, which is actually, not a bad thing for him. I think he can be really good someday. He just, he's just going to hit the weight room hard, and he's starting to do some pretty cool things. Actually this year already, he was pulling down the other day. He was up to, I think a 92 or 93 on a pull down. And that's, it's still so damn early. 92 or 93 could easily be 95 mid-season. You know what I mean? He's going to be pretty dang good. And I hope he hears this too. He's got a lot of really good potential.
What advice do you give him? Not as the older brother, but as the pro baseball player talking to a high school kid.
Yeah. Just keep your head down and keep grinding. There's going to be a lot of things that try and get in your way, whatever it'll be. I'd say just keep hammering, keep grinding.
Do you really think you could have been an NFL punter?
Oh man, that's so tough to say,
because I've seen you say it.
I'd like to think I could, especially with, Matt Hawk going to Dowling, and he's came back and he's punted with us before a few times at the Dowling football camp. And Tom Wilson has told me too. He goes, I mean, you were probably one of the better punters we've seen at Dowling. That's putting me up there with Matt Hawk. Punting was something I really loved. I love to punt. I love to make a hit when I had to make a hit too. And actually that got me in a little bit of trouble with breaking my collarbone my junior year in high school. Yeah. But, punting would be a fun thing to do, but pretty committed to this baseball thing. So I don't know if I can totally say it.
I'm not advocating for you to change sports. I saw that quote and I was like, this guy thought he was a real good punter.
Yeah. I mean, I knew I was pretty good. And, I did have a couple opportunities at some high level D1s to do it. But, yeah, like I said, baseball is the thing I want to do.
As a punter, do you kind of dream about fake punts?
Yeah, you do. Like, especially with me being a player that, before I just became a punter and a kicker, I was a tight end DN, and I was a little bit of a wide receiver too. So like, yeah, I mean, getting the ball in my hands is pretty fun, and, scoring a touchdown, I would have loved to do that as a punter, but, yeah, that would have been pretty fun. We had a play written up at Dowling for that.
Did you just focus on special teams because of baseball?
Yeah. I actually, my sophomore year was I was a DN, and I was rushing around our tackle during practice, and he bumped my shoulder. It was my left shoulder. He bumped my shoulder, and it popped out real quick and then popped back in. And I was like, holy shit. Like that didn't feel too good. And I was like, well, if that happens to my right shoulder, like baseball might be done. So, I just committed to TCU was just started talking to TCU, during that week of football too. And I was like, you know what, like, I think I'm just going to, commit to just doing special teams. If something were to happen like that to my right shoulder, baseball might be done. So, yeah.
Well, Carter, the way we end every episode of the Moonlight Graham Show is with the 5 big questions. All right.
Mm-hmm.
First question is, who's your all-time favorite teammate?
That's a really good question. We actually, just this past year going through TJ, we had a teammate, his name is Ty Block, and, he actually just signed with the Rockies. He was going through TJ as well, had the same surgeon as me, was about 2 months ahead of me. And he's probably been the best teammate I've ever met. He's a real Christian guy, cares about every player, and is just an absolute grinder. So there was a lot to learn from him.
Awesome. Who's your favorite player growing up?
Probably Max Scherzer. Max Scherzer is, unreal competitor out on the mound. He just gets after it, throws Ched, and I love to watch him. He throws his changeup a lot, and that's a guy I watch a lot to work on that pitch. But I love his fire. I love his competitiveness, and that's kind of how I see myself out on the mound, is that same way.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't want to be Max Scherzer on the mound, the way he competes, and he's got the stuff to back it up. But when you look at Major League Baseball today, when you see a guy's stuff, whose stuff most closely resembles what you think your stuff is?
I love to watch Walker Buehler too. Walker Buehler, crazy high spin rate, four seam, throws gas. He's pretty much the same size as me, 6'2", 200 pounds, 210, around there. He has, what I would say are flawless mechanics. I do not have flawless mechanics. So I kind of try to model myself after him a little bit. But, he's a guy who's developed, a lot. And he's actually in these past few years, with adding the changeup and adding the cutter in this past year, 2 years, which is something I'm actually going to be working on here in these next couple of years too. But he's a guy I've been watching for a while. Same thing goes like with Max for Walker Buehler. I love his fire. I love his competitiveness too. Nice.
So coming into spring training here and with the Orioles and all their tradition, I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of, old legendary Orioles walking around. Out of the current Orioles team on the major league level or on, everybody else that you're going to see in spring training, who's one guy that you really want to pick their brain if you get a chance to talk to him?
Yeah, actually, John Means was able to come down while I was rehabbing last year.
Oh yeah,
and got to talk to him a little bit. I wish I would have had a little bit more time. He came in at a right when I was pretty much just finishing up, so I only kind of ran into him a little bit. But he's a guy I'd like to talk about his changeup a little bit too, because he has a really good changeup that sets up hitters real well. But yeah, John, he's a really good dude too.
Final question then, Carter, is what's the best advice you've ever received?
Oof, that's a good one, man. It's probably got to be from my dad. And this might sound a little crazy, but he says everything is your own fault. Like you are where you are because of the decisions you've made. Everybody always likes to say control the controllables, but there's a lot more things that you can control than you think. So what he always says, it's if you don't like how things are, change it, fix yourself before you try and fix others.
Ooh, I like that. Cool. Well, Carter, awesome getting connected with you here on the pod. Best of luck this spring. We'll be cheering for you. Looking forward to you making your first mound appearance since 2019 here in the spring.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's been a long time coming.
Awesome, man. Well, I'm going to text you Mike Bodeker's number too, because that's one guy you got to get connected with.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
All right, man. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to today's episode with Carter Baumler. Of course, we talked a lot about him being one of the top baseball players coming out of the state of Iowa just a couple of years ago. And you might be surprised that Iowa has been a hotbed of baseball talent through the years. We've had a lot of great baseball players come out of the state of Iowa. Carter Baumler is kind of that next in line. But even last year in 2021, the top high school catcher in the country was a guy by the name of Ian Moeller from Dubuque, Iowa. He actually went to Dubuque Wahlert High School, but didn't actually play high school baseball. He just did like the perfect game circuit and played a lot of the showcases and perfect game type stuff and ended up being a 4th round draft pick last year. So in front of where Carter Baumler was drafted in the draft, and he signed with the Texas Rangers last year. We've got another top prospect in the state this year, also from Dubuque, guy by the name of Tommy Specht, middle infielder. So he's another guy to watch if you like following high school baseball, professional baseball. Guys like Carter Baumler, 5th round draft pick, Ian Moeller, 4th round draft pick, Tommy Specht might be drafted kind of in that same range this year. So it's exciting to see the amount of baseball talent that is coming out of the state. Hopefully we can get those guys on the podcast in the future as well. But thank you for listening to the pod, guys. Enjoy baseball. Baseball is back. Spring training is here. We got a 162 game schedule just around the corner. It's going to be awesome. Thanks, of course, to the Moonlight Graham Show team, Tommy Griffin, the trusted co-host, of course, the great Brian Sandvik, the producer behind the scenes that makes all of the magic happen, Brendan Gargano, who does all of the artwork here on the pod, of course, my two brothers, Andy and Neil, who do a lot of the behind the scenes work on this podcast, and to you, the Moonlighters, the listeners out there, we love you guys. Have a great week.
It's Moonlight Graham, yeah. It's a pretty good program, broadcasting to the heartland. Sports stories for the everyman. It's Moonlight Graham, yeah. Please follow us on Instagram. You're loving us on Twitter too. You download every pod we do. It's Moonlight Graham.